Dolphins receiver DeVante Parker said on an NFL on Fox Instagram poll that making a catch against Patriots corner Stephon Gilmore would be harder than breaking up a pass while guarding Saints receiver Michael Thomas. Thomas took offense to this, saying he has lapped Parker since entering the league. The two name-called back and forth, with Thomas finally saying Parker, quote, couldn't even get a seat at the table. So, Shannon, whose side are you on here?
I'm going to have to go with Parker. I really don't know why Michael Thomas got so upset. I mean, the question wasn't who's the better receiver. Nobody asked that. That wasn't a question. He says, which is tougher, catching a pass on Stephon Gilmore or breaking up a pass against Michael Thomas? Skip, for a receiver, obviously, what do you think the receiver's going to say? I'm sure DB would have said the opposite. If the DB would say, yeah, we'll break it. I mean, as many passes they're going to throw towards Michael Thomas, I mean, you're trying to break up, yeah, it's going to be tough. I don't get why Michael Thomas got so upset. Skip, the question wasn't who's the better receiver. And what was Parker supposed to say? He's a competitor like you, Michael. He believed that it was tougher for him to do what he did against Stephon Gilmore. Remember, Skip, there have not been a whole lot of DBs to win Defensive Player of the Year at the corner position. Rod Woodson won it. Deion Sanders won it. Mel Blount won it. But I'm saying, Skip, in the last 30 years, those are the only two defensive backs, I'm talking about cornerbacks, that have won Defensive Player of the Year. That's a huge accomplishment. And he lit him up. He did something nobody else did in the regular season last year. He did a number on Stephon Gilmore. He's entitled to have a bad game because he had been on the road for the last 2 years. Whoo, he was doing a number on wide receivers. Skip, but I don't see what Michael Thomas is getting upset about. No one said Parker is the equivalent receiver you are. They were just asking a question. We posed a question. He answered it. What was he supposed to say as a wide receiver? Man, I think breaking up a pass against Michael Thomas tougher than catching a pass on Stephon Gilmore. Man, stop. Man, y'all real sensitive out there these days, Skip.
I am so with you on this one. But now I'm going to talk about the why this happened. It's funny, Shannon, but if Michael Thomas walked up here in my loft right now and jumped in my lap the way our little Maltese Hazel did late in the show yesterday, if Michael Thomas jumped in my lap, I wouldn't know who he was. I don't know his face. He was the Offensive Player of the Year in the National Football League last year. He set the all-time record for catches in a season last year, and I don't know his face. I don't really know that much about him, except that I certainly respect him as a player. When I do watch New Orleans games, he doesn't jump off my screen. He's not spectacular to watch. He doesn't make that many. I've seen a couple on Twitter, some highlights, but again, he doesn't regularly make catches that make me say, wow, I can't believe that. He's a student of the game. He runs great routes. He gets open. He did not time fast at the combine, which is why he fell to the second round. He's like up in the 4.6 range. I think it's 4.55. DeVante Parker is a little bigger and was a second faster at the combine, which is why he was drafted he was the 14th overall pick by the Dolphins. So the point is that all I know about Michael Thomas is what I know from Twitter or Instagram. He's become a social troll, that he's always trying to pick fights on Twitter. He's always trying to fuel feuds on Twitter that are just kind of senseless to me. Like even this choice of the poll, this or that. It's not a real provocative question, and obviously it's an obvious answer for a receiver, especially one who twice a year each year has to go up against that guy, Stephon Gilmore. Yes. Well, obviously you'd pick that. There's nothing wrong with that. And then for Michael Thomas to conclude you don't even deserve a seat at the table, yeah, he does. I'm sorry, Michael, he does. He had a terrific year last year for a not very good football team. You realize DeVante Parker had career highs across the board in catches and yards and touchdowns, And 13 of those games were started by Ryan Fitzpatrick, and 3 more of those games were started by Josh Rosen. So, again, he didn't have Drew Brees throwing him pass after pass. And, Shannon, here's another big point. Michael Thomas had the luxury of having by far, the most balls thrown to him in the whole league.
Oh, yeah.
He led the league with 185 targets last year. That's 28 more than Julio got, number 2. And that was 57 more than DeVante got thrown to him by the 2 Dolphins quarterbacks, which ranked completely way down at 17th on the list of targets. Well, yeah, if you took DeVante Parker at 6'3", 216, and you put him in Drew Brees' offense right here, right now, going into next year, and you threw him 185 balls, I think he'd do really well. I really do, because I like him. If I'm rooting against him, I'm afraid of DeVante Parker. He's really good. Is he as good as Michael? No, not quite, but he has earned a seat at the table. And I feel like I know more about him than I know about Michael Thomas.
Skip, if I were to ask an offensive lineman, which is hard, blocking LT or running a route on Deion Sanders, what the hell you think the offensive lineman going to say, Skip? So you ask a receiver, which is tougher, running.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Nobody said Deion isn't any good. Man, just saying you're asking a player that has to face a player more times than that. The likelihood of Parker is hoping he doesn't have to break up a pass against Michael Thomas. That's what he's hoping. So I don't get the frustration. If somebody would have said who's better, Julio or Michael Thomas, okay, Michael Thomas, you want to say, well, look at my numbers, look at the yards, look at the catches, yada, yada, yada. Okay, I give you that argument. I personally, Skip, you know where I'm on this. I think Julio's the best receiver in the game. But I'm not going to fight Michael Thomas on that. If he wants to get upset about something like that, I get it. But you're asking a receiver who's having to go against the premier corner in the league and do what he did, as opposed to asking DB to break up a pass. I don't get what I looked at it, I'm like, well, where's the slight? Where is the slight in what DeVante Parker said? I didn't see it, and I still don't see it.
Shannon, Stephon Gilmore made Amari Cooper quit last year. Amari waved out of the game, checked out, stood on the sideline pouting because he couldn't get open. He did not catch a ball as Dallas lost close game at New England last year. So in the end, let me sum it up with this. If Tua is as good as you say Tua is, and if he does start from the start, or at least from the 3rd or 4th game next year, watch what starts happening with DeVante Parker with a big-time quarterback. And by the way, if this is Drew Brees last year in New Orleans, and let's say, for sake of argument, that Jameis is the quarterback a year from now, let's see what starts happening to Michael Thomas with Jameis. Maybe it won't be quite as great as it was with Drew Brees.
Yeah, Skip, I agree. I mean, we don't know. I mean, when you play with an all-time great quarterback and your numbers are skewed, we'll see what they look like if Taysom Hill or Jameis is the quarterback. We'll see if he averages 110, 112 catches a season.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of all-time great QBs, I've got a question for you guys. Is Kyler Murray already becoming an elite quarterback? We'll give you all the information about this next.